So petrol prices are rising, the Proteas team nab another win in Bulawayo, and the US just threw a curveball into South Africa's export plans. My friends, it is Wednesday, and today's news seems to be all about movement on the roads, in the markets, and across the pitch. Let's get into it. And kicking us off with current affairs, South African drivers are getting hits and help this week, depending on where you look. You see, from today, petrol prices rise by 52 cents a litre for 95 unleaded, and diesel jumps by up to 84 cents. And look, it's still lower than this time last year, but it's another sting for commuters. The culprit here is the spike in oil prices triggered by the US-Israeli strikes on Iran. And while the rand is slightly stronger, it wasn't enough to cushion the blow. But while filling up gets worse, renewing your license may soon get easier. You see, the Transport Department is reviewing a plan to extend driver's license card validity from 5 to 8 years, something long pushed by civil society but repeatedly delayed by ministers. Surprise, surprise. Either way though, it won't save you any money at the pump, but it could mean fewer queues, less admin, and one less trip to the test center. And on to our quickfire mentions. Standard Bank is warning of a SARS scam spike. You see, criminals are increasingly posing as tax investigators, pressuring people to pay into fake accounts. And so look, if it sounds urgent or too specific, rather double check. And South Africa's trade deal just hit a snag. You see, the US is introducing a new standard format for African agreements, which means that South Africa may need to rewrite its proposal, with tariff hikes looming if no deal is signed by the 9th of July. And onto our finance section. WeBuyCars said it has been approached by multiple manufacturers keen to sell new cars through its platform. But for now, according to Business Tech, the company says it is sticking to used vehicles. But does this make sense? I mean, 30% of customers who sell to WeBuyCars reportedly go on to buy new cars elsewhere. But the company says it wants to stay focused on used car sales and growing that to 23,000 a month by 2028, rather than adding new shiny stock. You see, new car sales are reportedly booming, up 19%, but experts say that in and of itself is squeezing pre-owned demand. Still though, WeBuyCars says it isn't worried. They say that revenue is up 15% to 13.1 billion rand. It just hit a monthly record of 16,000 sales, and it is opening 3 new sites this year alone. You see, their bet here is that value, trust, and convenience beats novelty, and that South Africans aren't done shopping secondhand just yet. And next up, Gary Free is not done just yet. You see, with 3 more weeks left as Capitec CEO, he is meeting with at least 6 cabinet members to push one last agenda: unlocking South Africa's informal economy. You see, Fourie stirred controversy last month by suggesting that South Africa's real unemployment rate might be closer to 10%, not 33% if you count informal and micro businesses. Stats SA clapped back, but government is still listening. So why are they listening? Because he's got a point. I mean, formal jobs aren't growing, but informal trade is, but it's buried under red tape and outdated metrics. I mean, Capitec believes that South Africa has 6 million small businesses, and most of them are invisible to the system. So now the government is drafting its first national business licensing policy to cut costs and streamline business registrations. Minister says it's not about formalization, it's about unleashing growth. Fourie's message here is stop worshipping payroll stats. If we really want jobs, we need to start backing the people already hustling. And onto our quickfire mentions. Investec now has over 2,100 corporate clients and plans to triple its transactional banking base by 2030, chasing 8% market share in South Africa's mid-sized business segment. South Africa's manufacturing is showing signs of life. June's Purchasing Managers Index jumped 5.4 points. Look, it's still in contraction, but it's been its biggest monthly gain in 9 months as demand and hiring picked up. And about a third of the VBS loot has been recovered. That's nearly 730 million rand being clawed back from the collapsed bank. In saying that though, only 9 of the 29 criminal cases have reached court. And onto our sports section. After an eye-catching run at the Club World Cup, Mamelodi Sundowns players are expected to attract growing interest from overseas. And with it though, the familiar risk. jump too soon and it could stall your career. You see, the Sundowns weren't expected to make a dent in the tournament, but they went on to beat Ulsan from South Korea, held Fluminense to a draw, and went toe-to-toe with Dortmund in a 4-3 loss that honestly could have gone either way. It was gutsy, confident football, and it got international attention. So Lucas Ribeiro has reportedly already drawn interest from Europe, and more offers could soon follow. And that's what happens when smaller clubs perform on a global stage. Big teams start circling, and squads are often stripped of their top talent. And so for Sundowns, the challenge is clear. Enjoy the spotlight, but stay smart. This team didn't land on this stage by luck, and rushing out the back door to Europe may not end up being the right call. And on to our quickfire mentions. Corbin Bosch bagged a second consecutive 5-4 as the Proteas thrashed Zimbabwe by 328 runs in Bulawayo. Bosch also hit a century in the first innings, a dominant all-round performance. The Boks are stress testing their scrum stock. You see, with Kitshoff retired and Malherbe out injured, Italy and Georgia will face a younger front row this July, and the Boks coaches are watching closely. And Banyana are back in training, but still waiting on unpaid bonuses. You see, the players refused to train last week in protest, but with the WAFCON kicking off this Sunday, they've returned to camp to defend their title. And before we continue to our wildcard section, here is something to chew on. You see, according to Stats SA, approximately what percentage of South African households own at least one working vehicle? Is it A, 22%, B, 30%, or C, 37%? We'll give you the answer at the end of the show. Onto our wildcard section. Feel good story incoming. When Johan Kutzer couldn't find anyone to take his spare ticket to the Springboks game in Cape Town, he gave it to a stranger, a homeless man named Luigi. And what followed was pure South African class. Luigi wasn't just grateful, he was a super fan. A former teacher and rugby nut who had never seen the Boks live, he could name the whole starting lineup, but usually watched the games through pub windows. So on Saturday, he finally stepped inside the stadium. They shared brandies, cheered through every try, and were even spotted on SuperSport beaming from the stands. Honestly, South African rugby has a way of bringing people together like nothing else, and it's on nights like that it's clear that the Boks aren't the only ones reminding us what this country is all about. And as for that bagel bite, the answer is approximately 30%. You see, according to Stats SA, only about 1/3 of South African households own a working vehicle, which speaks to how big of a role public transport plays in keeping this country moving. And my friends, that's it for today's show. And look, this is just a reminder, if you prefer listening to your news on the go, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Links to both of those are in the description or in our bio. I'll catch you guys all tomorrow. Cheers.